Good evening. Welcome to the January 16th, 2014 meeting of the Board of Directors of the Montara Water and Sanitary District. Since it's our first meeting of the new year, Happy New Year to everyone. So call this to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Slater Carter.
Present.
Director Harvey.
Present.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Director Huber.
Here.
All right. President's statement tonight. I just want to mention that it's all in the news about this incredible drought our state is going through. Our district is blessed to have local sources of water that we have been working very hard to manage well and develop further over the past few years. And while we're in really good shape, it is always a good time to conserve water. The water we conserve now may be the water we need late in the summer. So there is no district anywhere near that I know of that comes anywhere close to how good a job our community does on conserving water. And I want to say thank you for that, and let's do more of that. Do we have any oral comments for items not on the agenda?
I have a comment, actually, and it's along the vein of what you're saying, and it's for people who are on wells. It's a good opportunity periodically to take your well water in and get it tested. And if we have less new water flowing through the aquifers that all these individual wells are in, you may be seeing different levels of certain pollutants that you may not have seen before. Certainly, salt water is one, although we have test wells for that. But I have heard of a number of wells in town that are have natural sources of petroleum or unnatural sources of nitrates and other pollutants. So it might be a good plan to, as this drought wears on, to get your water tested. Knowing that if you don't like the results of your water test and you're in the urban area, you can come to this district and get a water connection so that you don't have to put in these expensive treatment systems, as some do in Half Moon Bay, but you can actually connect directly to our district.
I didn't put in a speaker slip, but can I make it?
If you'll do a speaker slip afterwards, sure.
Okay, I will.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Brennan. I live in Moss Beach, and I'm actually here regarding a different item tonight, not public comment, but I had a neighbor who asked me to make a public comment. He and his family are on a well, and they understand that the moratorium on water connections has been lifted, and I haven't kept up with the ins and outs of how that's working out, although I did read the article in the Half Moon Bay Review. His concerns were if in this drought situation their well were to run dry, he was concerned that he and his family might not get a priority to connect to the system, and his questions were really around how are connections being prioritized? What is that process? And I know you guys have covered that in the past, and I know you can't speak to it tonight, but
we can.
Well, I just wanted you to know that there were people out in the community who don't have all the facts and were concerned about it, and I couldn't answer his questions, so I thought I'd mention it. Thank you.
Okay, well, let me say a little something and then ask Clemens to make a comment. There is no waiting list, and there's no need to be concerned about priority for wells. We have, thanks to the Coastal Commission's actions in December, we now are good to go, and we have ample supply. So if someone wants to connect, either now or waiting until their well becomes distressed, come on into the office and work with our staff, and we can start getting that done right now. Clemens, do you want to talk a little bit about the process?
That's essentially it. It's on a first come, first served basis. We don't plan on running out of connections. There is actually a specific provision in the amendment that allows us to actually speed up and get a different process for wells that have difficulties, but I don't think we need this at this time. It's a simple come into the office and pick up an application and we'll proceed.
Can you,
might-
can we maybe get that on the website? It's real clear.
I was going to say it is on the website.
No, but I mean, what I'm trying to say is I know it's on the website, but I think you have to kind of dig into it a little bit. I think since the concern of the community is respect, maybe we can just maybe highlight something that just highlights the simplicity of it.
I'm going to just let you know, front, center, if you want a water connection, it's available, click here. And it's
Okay.
top
Yep.
center of the website.
I just sent that information to somebody who had asked me for it, so I just looked at it on the website just within the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when people have questions like that, please have them call the office. We've got a really friendly office staff that happens to know quite a bit about this subject. And after all these years, we have really good news that doesn't include just wait, right? So now we've done all that waiting and working with the Coastal Commission, and we have great news to report. So go ahead and call the staff or email or come on by.
Thank you.
So thank you for bringing that. We have no public hearing tonight. Anything to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda,
Second.
all 9 items.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Wait just 1 second. These have minutes that are from October 17th and December 5th.
Yes, and December 19th as well.
Yeah, the 19th, I was a board member, but the 17th and the December 5th, I wasn't. So it seems to me appropriate that I just abstain from that.
Can we separate the motion
Sure.
Sure.
into 2 motions? Let's start with, if I understand your motion correctly now, it's to approve the minutes for October 17th and December 5th.
Correct.
Okay, with that understanding, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And then the second motion is to approve the other minutes and the other items.
Can I have a second, please?
Yes, you got my second.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the minutes for the meeting of December 19th and items 2 through 9 as written on the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Motion carries.
Okay, I may be a little slow on this, but the point number 7, a monthly water production report for November 2013. I just have some questions that won't affect whether that I voted to approve. One was North Airport well, that there was 19,000 gallons pumped. Was there any, and there hadn't been none before that. I'm just curious about that.
I can't answer it specifically. I would have to probably look into the pumping record, but
Okay.
It's normal operations that all turns on and off. It could also be that this was for sampling purposes. For example, when we know we need to sample a well, then we like to turn it on and run it. Of course, we have to.
Okay, and then the second question is why there was no production from Portola number 3 well since May.
Because the Portola number 3 well is one of our wells that is currently being rehabbed.
Okay.
And there are essentially issues in the well that require the rehab. Specifically, there's, for example, a sounding tube that came off, and other issues why the well hasn't been running. It was included in the rehab program, and it's actually the well that is up next for attention. So
Okay, cool.
we'll get that fixed very soon.
All right. Old business, item 1, review and possible action concerning district strategic plan. Clemens?
Yeah, we had proposed 2 different consultants at the last meeting, DHI Consulting and Roush Communications, and the board agreed to engage with Roush Communications for the implementation of the strategic planning process. The board asked to get a second proposal from the firm that presents now a variety of options for board selections, and that was with a focus on community outreach, further agency and stakeholder interviews. So we had originally a proposal received that was $15,740. That included 2 public meetings for the process. We have now a revised proposal that shows the basic cost a bit lower at $13,870, and that subtracts the initial meeting, so that's now an option actually. So it was simply 10 hours for the first public workshop were subtracted from this original price. Essentially, we have 4 options. They have subcategories, but first one is an additional 8 hours of interviews that would cost an additional $1,870. I want to point out this is highly recommended by the consultant as a very effective information tool. Also, $1,870 is now the first initial public hearing that was subtracted from the original proposal. And then we have under 3 public outreach for draft plan with 4 subselections of varying cost in the table behind. That's for strategic plan mailer, web-based information, press release, and associated additional board review of material. And under 4, the consultant listed more general outreach topics that we think are very much related. For example, they're in general to increase public information access and visibility for the district. Newsletter, further web work, social media, etc., etc. So the recommendation is to select from the suggested options and direct the general manager to initiate the strategic planning process for the district.
Okay. Do we have any public comment on this? If not, board members.
I have a question. The $1,870, so that would be additive, so we're looking at $3,740 for items 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay, and what are the costs on 3 and 4?
They're listed on page page 18. On page 18, you'll see some of those specified under 3. For example, public involvement in review of the draft strategic plan would be $478, and then there's some that include a range. For example, the strategic plan summary mailer. It essentially depends upon us how we want this mailer to look like. Do we need this printed, or do we use our own printer, etc., etc. So there's a range of $1,200 to $5,000, and this is really something where we can later in the process still influence the overall cost. The same with the strategic plan information on the web. It really depends on what type of, how much we want to put on the web, how much work do we want to invest in this. A press release, well, I think it was difficult for the consultant to come to a final conclusion how much this is going to cost. Things that are clear, like driving out here and spending a day for 8-hour interviews, was very properly marked as the cost for 10 hours, for example.
So I would, let me just mention, because I was wondering as you presented this, if any of these, in terms of the mailer, the web, the press release, if any of those might be decided on after we have an idea of what's happening with the work product. He actually mentions in his proposal, note, options A, B, and C could come after the final strategic plan is approved or before the final approval meeting.
Right.
So I'm glad to notice that so we can think about that as an option.
I feel the same way, that we don't need to make a decision on those last two items until later on.
That's how they were designed. I mean, especially you see on item 4, it's pretty clear that this is something that would be evolving out of the strategic planning process probably itself. And same with item 3. Item 1 and 2, I think we really should give the consultant an idea on how the process should look like overall, meaning do we want do we want to increase the number of interviewees, and do we want to increase the number of public hearings?
Well, my personal opinion is that we err on the side of too many interviewees and too many public hearings. I think this is setting direction for this district for the next 5 to 10 years, and I think we need to cast as wide a net as possible to get people's opinions, and to hear their concerns as well. So I think it's over the next 10 years, it's a very small amount of money, and as I tell people all the time, I was a preschool teacher. I read a whole lot of fairy tales, and they're really life's lessons, and leaving somebody out of the party. They tend to cast a spell on your party, and things can stall for years and years and years. So I prefer to invite everyone to the party, and that's a very small amount of money, really.
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think we should expand I think the only question comes down to, I was looking at the selection of the interviewees and all that, and the agencies. I guess the only question would be, are there any, I noticed on page 4, I got a box on the suggested interviewees. Is there anything in that suggested organizations, which I have no issues with any of those, are we missing anybody?
Yes. I don't see where we're interviewing anybody from the CCWD, which I think we should do.
Why?
That must, oh, okay.
Why?
Why do I think that we should? Same reason why we would interview the North Coast County Water District.
So I want to point out that there's a specific number of interviewees that essentially fit into a day, and I provided that list, and I had Coast County Water District on that list.
Okay, when I looked at it, I didn't see it.
It's not there,
Yeah.
but it might be that the consultant had to take one off, but essentially they were on the list that I submitted.
Okay, and then I have actually one other one that I feel that really should be added to the list, Blue Wall.
That's a good point. Again, there's a certain number of interviews that can be held in a day, and I'm assuming that is the limitation that the consultant.
What I'd like to do with, so he suggests a couple of customers of different types, and then a suggestion of various different people. I'd suggest we put a variety of names in the hat and see who, if anyone else wants to apply, and then select from that the number that we have time and money allocated for.
I'm definitely going to write Lou down.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point.
Well,
I'm in strong agreement with Louis's suggestion, but I think to the larger question of general members of the public, we probably ought to have some thought to how do we make sure we cast an appropriately wide net. And
Right.
Yeah, we also want someone who's really keen on rates, on our rate structure.
Yeah, I received an email from Ginny, and
There was actually the recommendation that customers are picked at random as well.
yep.
I mean, my point would be that, to the point I think Catherine raised, the $1,870 in and of itself is nothing. And if we have to pay a second day of this to be inclusive, I would recommend we do such.
Yeah.
So I think the idea right now should be that we should put everyone in the hat that we think is valuable, figure out what that is, and ask, and if we're in agreement as a group to go forward, it's really, I mean, when you think about the overall investment, it's nothing. So I think we should err, as I think Catherine alluded to. I mean, we don't have the county on here that I've missed. I mean, there's some relationship issues here that I'm...
County's not on there either? I have...
No, they're the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Well,
okay.
actually, you can say my vision here is deteriorating by the minute.
Yeah.
But my point being, I'd like to make sure that we don't miss something just because we're worried about a few dollars.
Sure.
Yep. So it sounds like we.
Then I'm happy to take recommendations.
Okay, then I actually have one other one. The public workshop early in the process, I'd like to entertain the idea of augmenting that with a customer survey. It could be a phone survey, it could be a written survey that's sent in. Because that way you would also include those that aren't normally included, people with small children that don't tend to come to meetings because it's very difficult for them. Potentially senior citizens that can't get out and so forth.
Are you thinking along the lines of us sending information material out or having an online tool with precast questions, or what is it that you're actually thinking about?
Okay, I'm thinking about basically a customer survey. Now, the way that that's done, is it a telephone survey like was done for the Mesa Water District in 2012, or is it an online survey? Is it a survey that is sent along with the bill that is basically returned? And so once it's returned, it's anonymous. And, there's all kinds of questions about what questions are asked, how detailed it is, who analyzes it, and so forth. But it seems like to me that if we truly do want to get a sense of what our ratepayers, what's important to them, what they're thinking, that a survey would actually be an important augment to just having a public workshop.
So if you're thinking along the lines of we understand that the consultant is charging a certain amount for a day's worth of work, are you suggesting adding 1 day of telephone interviews, or?
I think at this point, just to bring that back to him and say that this is an issue that we would like to cost out or get his advice on how to go about it, or if there is something in it to why the consultant thinks it's not a good idea, and so forth.
Okay, so I understand then that the board is willing to spend a bit more money than originally anticipated on this plan. I mean, it's going to come down to that we're going to exceed budget on this, and of course, I see the need for that, absolutely. I would welcome, if we have a little more money for this available.
So Clemens, how much is you said exceed budget? What's the budget?
Well, the budget was commingled with, for example, newsletter. Now we've actually listed this here as almost an option, right? I mean, this is all connected essentially, and I would have to look it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But anyway,
around $20,000. Was it $22,000 or so?
In total.
In total for everything.
Okay.
And
I'm not opposed to asking the consultant his thoughts on this. What I'm attentive to is, one, I'm familiar with those kind of surveys and the kind of money and time it takes to do it. And two, the consultant didn't lead with this, and that to me indicates something about his initial take on whether or not that's the appropriate thing for this effort. So I don't mind asking his opinion on that, but I'm not interested at all in making any decisions on that without even having that input.
I agree.
Oh, I do too. But I think we should flush this out.
Okay, essentially that requires bringing this up at a subsequent meeting.
Well, what I'm hearing
Well-
is that we have some consensus on accepting options 1 and 2, and consensus as well, I believe, on deferring decisions on the extent of the particular public outreach items until later in the process, which he suggested. So this is right in line with.
Right, but I think we need to have a clear picture before we start the strategic planning process on directly related services. So I think before we start the process, we should probably understand if it is 1 additional day of interviews or 2 additional days. And I heard the board say that we're gonna suggest a number of interviewees, and if that turns into 2, then we're gonna do that. Now, question is, can I suggest an additional days of work for, let's say, a survey of some
So
sort?
why don't we do this? I think I heard consensus that we're all pretty comfortable with the second day. So the idea is, how do we populate the second day? And suggestions maybe can be given to you, and you could present it back to us in 2 weeks. And the other thought is, ask him about the survey issue so that we can wrestle over it at the next meeting. And we should come to closure, I would think, in the next meeting. I can't see why this should go more than that next meeting. That's how I'm really looking at it. So really the only issue is
I think so.
the pros and cons of a survey and the complications.
And the consultant would have loved to be here tonight, but wasn't available. Well, let's see if he's in here
And
at
maybe he could
6.
be here at the next meeting.
Yeah.
That would be probably.
All right, well, this is
best.
shaping up well, and I think it's fair to let the consultant know that we've got consensus on the basic shape.
Right.
We've got the open question, and we'd like to have enough information to close out a decision at the next meeting. All right, let's move on to new business item 1, review and possible action concerning drought preparation.
Okay, President Boyd already made a statement at the President's statement about the ongoing drought preparation, about the drought. And I think by now everyone really has heard it in the news. It's interesting, when I looked at this for the first time about a week ago, I think there was a storm supposed to be coming that essentially didn't produce any rain. There were a lot of hopes that there's some precipitation. Having now looked into this issue, I'm not a meteorologist, but I understand that this is actually a very stable weather condition that we have currently that is actually created by very warm North Pacific. And it seems that I've read some reports where meteorologists essentially said that seasonal fluctuations might be needed to break this weather pattern up. There was a new experimental long-range forecast, a 3-month forecast produced yesterday by NOAA, and that shows below average precipitation for the next 3 months in California.
No skiing.
So I think yeah, that's one of these things. Yeah. So the situation is
optimism.
very extreme. Everybody has heard that we have not seen a drier year. Now, that by itself doesn't say much, because we're thinking in water years. We're thinking in years in precipitation from October through November. So we're hoping, well, a very dry calendar year 13 is not necessarily that much of a concern. But if the entire water year is dry, meaning the wet weather period doesn't produce any rain or any precipitation, then this is a very severe situation for entire California. I guess everyone has hoped that, the 1 or 2 storms that make the difference between a wet or dry year would essentially be on their way. It doesn't look like that. Of course, it's very difficult to predict the weather, especially if you're right next to an ocean. But at this time, everyone is preparing for the worst, and I think that is very good. I think at this time, as Scott said, it's really prudent that we look at how is our supply doing, how much are we affected. Nobody can say, no water agency in the state can say when this will affect their own agency. I find it interesting that we have a Metropolitan Water Agency that states that they have plenty of water available and that they wouldn't be affected, and that there will no water use restrictions in the area they provide with water. In any case, we here, I think, need to take the first step, and we attached a document that was prepared in 2008. It's our drought contingency plan, and in that drought contingency plan, we looked at a number of water alerts, measures that we asked to our customers to take to conserve water. And we were back then already very conservative. Our stage 1 normal water supply has a lot of water use efficiencies, recommended efficiencies. This is voluntary recommendations that most water districts have in their stage 2 water alert. And so what we're suggesting is that we produced a little one-page flyer here that essentially lists the stage 1 normal water supply, water use efficiencies, and we asked the board to essentially we would like to publish this, put it on the post offices, on the web page, for example, and make sure that our customers are aware of the problem. And we plan on bringing this up at subsequent meetings if the drought continues, of course.
Can we do a flyer in with the water bill?
Absolutely, but that's going to cost, of course, always some money. I'm sure it's worth it. A flyer is probably going to run us around $200-300.
Does the water emergency include our emergency agreement with CCWD?
No, this is a drought contingency plan.
Okay.
This wouldn't be the place.
All right. Where would that go?
Well, we actually have an item up tonight that is looking at the... Oh, no, we don't have it up. No, yeah, we have it up. The emergency response plan and water quality emergency notification plan. It would be the emergency response plan where this would find its place.
Okay. Okay.
A question for you. When do you guys, when you see surges of water changes, when do you actually notify make communication with the homeowner or the location?
I understand.
When reading the meters.
When reading the meters. The reason I ask is we had a leak in our own place and our water usage doubled, which, as I thought about that, I was thinking, I would have thought that maybe there would have been a remote, say, someone would have called and said, your water doubled, or do you have a leak or something? So my question was, is there a standard? I'm thinking as we get into the drought, this might become more and more important.
If you could explain a little bit about how we come to know this and what our procedure is, because I'm sure a lot of people aren't even aware.
So we have a system in place where the meters are read remotely. That means from a truck. So the staff drives essentially all streets, and the unit picks up all the reads from the meters. At the time, we're alerted about a leak. A leak is defined as water flowing through the meter over a period of 24 hours before the read. So what we cannot detect is in that process immediately is, for example, a leak that's stopped or a leak that is intermittent. So a toilet leak might turn on and off, but a toilet leak turns on and off most likely more than once per hour. And that is the unit that we're looking at. We're looking at a certain number of clicks per hour, 24 hours before. So we're looking at minimum of 24 clicks, minimal water usage per hour. So we detect leaks at the time of the meter reading. And now
we do that how often?
Once per month. So we read the meters actually just bi-monthly because we have bi-monthly billing cycles. And we read all meters for the purpose of detecting leaks once per month.
So my question, I got that part. So my question is, so you have that system in place. Is there a software fix that if you see a jump in the level of usage from one billing period to another by a certain percentage, is that doable in your current billing system?
It's doable, but we're looking at this also manually, at those in a report, and we see quite often fluctuations in the 100% plus range, simply to the fact that folks are on vacation or are leaving, so or have visitors, things like that.
Or their kids come home.
So we're pulling the very severe ones.
As somebody that's been on the other side of that, what happens is you get a notice with your bill, and it says, we think you have a problem, that you may have a leak. And so that you need to treat that very seriously. But beyond that, that's as much as has been done historically, right? Is basically we send out a notice.
We've done other things, and we've been running the water district now for a little over 10 years, and early on we did some things like door hangers. So they come back from the read, they process the data, and then turn right around and go drop out about 50 door hangers. That's an issue in that it can telegraph that somebody's not home if that door hanger stays too long.
Or the dog eats it.
Well, we had several people who came back and said we didn't see it. Sometimes it was under the doormat because there was nothing to hang it on.
Is that the same as the dog ate my homework?
Well, it's an interesting problem because some people are unable to bend, and putting it under the doormat, they would never see it, and they couldn't retrieve it even if they could. And so it's an interesting set of challenges, and I think the staff is always looking for ways to make that work better. But some of the triggers are hard to discern.
Well, I was thinking, and I didn't expect a solution tonight, but I was thinking as we proceed, if the drought continues as it is, the issue of fluctuation might become more and more important. That was it.
Well, I appreciate the thought, and it falls really in line of our thinking, what we've been doing so far. I don't think you will find an agency that puts that much effort on resolving customer leaks so quickly. That's one of our success, how we conserve water. We, of course, try to detect leaks very early on, and can only do that in certain intervals, of course.
I would note that we've had people come in and try and blame us for the fact that they had a leak and we didn't notify them. and ultimately the responsibility is on the homeowner. And so one of the reasons we have the 4-tier rate is so that people feel a personal incentive to keep track of their water use.
I don't know if you'll be able to pull in on this.
That
but
is scary.
If you'd like to get an idea of what our normal rainfall looks like, if you go to the webpage, mwsd.montara.org, scroll down. In the center column is a blue rectangle that is showing our most recent rainfall. If you click on that, you go through to a page that has a number of graphs. And the top one is the one I'm showing, which is an overlay of several of the recent years in terms of water. If you see the bright yellow portion right here, that's the current water year. We are right now right about half of where we were in the water year last year. Now, last year, the water picked up, and over the course of the balance of the water season, got up fairly close to normal. It really took off late in January, and then more in March. The year before that, our rains came much earlier, November and December, and by January we were already, almost at normal for the year. So we have very different patterns, even in the very recent years. And if you like staring at graphs, this can give you an idea of what some of the different patterns are that we've had here historically. These numbers are taken from the rain gauge, which is up near our Alta Vista well, and has been collected. You'll notice the webpage is Balance Hydrologics. They are our hydrogeology firm that has worked with us to help us develop and improve our water supply.
I would also note they have a link to the Half Moon Bay Airport charts. They're not graphic like this, but showing the data back to 1950, 1944. So you can get a real sense of the variation in rainfall over the years, and it's a very valuable link.
So we're being asked to authorize the manager to publish the Stage 1 water efficiency measures on the district webpage and post offices. Do you have any discussion or motions on that?
First of all, I do have a question. What exactly are we going to post? Is that this page that says, please conserve water?
That's the idea.
Okay, so I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm the worst person in the world at this, but it needs a little more proofreading. There's a couple of grammatical errors on it. But outside of that, I think it's a good idea. As a matter of fact, I think it's a good enough idea that can't we just also print additional 8.5 by 11 copies folded 3 ways and stick it in with the bill? It was still, the postage would be the same.
That was the suggestion from Catherine, to stuff it in the bills. And again, that would cost us probably around actually $200 per billing cycle. The problem with that is also that we will reach in time only one part of town. And we bill in bi-monthly cycles. Not saying that it's not worth reaching at least half the town.
I think we should do it. The most valuable new water supply development that we have done in the 10.5 years that we've had the system has been the water that we've conserved.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
I was listening to a program on KQED Forum about the drought at the start of the year, and there was a really interesting comment from someone, because the host was asking, well, what about using rain barrels and catchments and such? And his guest had a really surprising answer. He says that's really good, and you see a whole lot of that, like in Texas, in places where it gets really, really hot and you really need to conserve your water. And he said there's kind of this kind of a surprise effect you get. People will, using the barrels, he has seen that people will set up nice green outdoor vegetation, and then later in the year when the drought really hits, they want to keep it alive, and so they start watering from the tap. and it has exactly the opposite effect. So we should just be attentive and learn from this lesson that I think it's exactly this message that we're saying here. Conserve now while times are good, and then later we'll have a little more in supply if we need it. So develop the habits, encourage the habits, and I don't think anybody in Montara or Moss Beach is going to feel the strain from what we're asking for here, because most of this is what our community already does. But I really think $200 or $300 to include it is a valuable addition.
Maybe what we could look at instead is just printing a note on the bill suggesting that people come to our website for this and for links to water saving.
Are you concerned about the $200 or $300, or is it?
Yeah, it's, my thought is that, for instance, I never see the bill. It goes to our office. And I admit I'm on a well, so I never see our bills, but other bills that we get for our household go to the office where we pay them out of the office. And so maybe there's a way, although I do pick up the mail, but maybe there's a way we can do more than just hit.
Well, we're talking about...
Although the person who pays the bill is the one who is the most sensitive to the cost issues as well.
Well, I mean, you could do like a separate postcard mailing, but then we're talking...
That's expensive.
Quite a bit more.
I think the easy part is stick it in the 2 billion cycles. It's $400. I mean, you could do the addition, Kathy. I think they're all synergistic, so I would recommend you spend the money.
Then I heard printing it in a larger format before we post it. The post offices.
For those who have trouble reading.
Well, what I might do, when you post your next when you do your post the next agenda, take one of those out as well. I mean, bottom line is just circulate as much as you can read.
Right.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, we can also distribute at other places. We ask sometimes the stores, the gas stations, post things, and I suggest doing that.
Absolutely.
So if we have consensus, Clemens, do you need a motion on this, or do you have sufficient direction?
I think I have sufficient direction. It's not like you're changing to stage 2. We are already in stage 1. We just make the suggestion to publish this, and thanks for your suggestions.
Okay. Let's move on to new business 2, review and possible action concerning reorganization of Granada Sanitary District into Community Services District, adding the service of Park and Recreation.
So the Granada Sanitary District filed an application with the San Mateo County LAFCO. That's the Local Agency Formation Commission. They want to reorganize into a Community Services District in order to provide park and recreation services within their boundaries. And at the December 12-13 meeting, the proposal was tentatively approved. At a subsequent meeting last night, the proposal was approved. So one of the conditions called at the December 12 meeting for GST to send a letter to the Montara Water and Sanitary District requesting the establishment of a joint ad hoc consolidation committee. So again, the condition then was essentially satisfied on January 7. We received a letter from Granada Sanitary District asking to establish such a committee to discuss potential consolidation issues. So they satisfied the condition, and that then subsequently the application was approved. That means now that this is actually going to vote of the people on June 3rd, 2014. We'll also hear some more about this, what the Board of Supervisors has to say about this. I think they have it scheduled for the February 25th. So the recommendation is to discuss the item and take appropriate action.
Okay, we have public comment from Sabrina Brennan and then Bill Kehoe.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Brennan from Moss Beach. So I was at the meeting, the LAFCO meeting, not the last one, but the one before that, regarding the reorg for Granada Sanitary District. And I spoke in support of the reorganization to a Parks and Rec district. And I'm going to grab my glasses. I'll be right back. Thank you. So I have a hard time understanding why LAFCO would want to tie a consolidation committee to this reorganization for GSD and draw in Montara Water Sanitary District. It feels really off topic to me. And as a ratepayer in Moss Beach, I really would urge this board not to participate in such a committee. I don't think there's any requirement that you must participate in the committee. And I'm here speaking on behalf of the Seal Cove Property Owners Association tonight. And there are a great number of people in the community who have been quite vocal about not supporting consolidation. And this feels like it's coming from up high. And I really don't know too many people in this community that are ratepayers for Montara Water Sanitary District that support consolidation. So this just, again, feels really inappropriate. I would urge this board to focus on things that would benefit the ratepayers, such as improving communication with the ratepayers. I think you guys are planning on doing some upgrades to the website, and you're already in the process of doing that. That's great. Improving outreach, and I've heard a lot about that tonight, which sounds like you're on to that. Improving email communications would be helpful if there was like an email blast system so you could communicate with ratepayers about things like preparing for the drought, drought-tolerant plants, things that really affect our community, educating ratepayers about what's happening with people now being allowed to hook up to the system. I know that there's been stuff in the news about that, but we talked about that a little bit earlier. There's still a need for more information to get out to the community. You know, those are the kinds of things that I think that ratepayers are interested in, and it just feels sort of underhanded if this board were to have a committee on something like consolidation when the public doesn't support such a thing. It doesn't sit well with me at all. And on another note, I also wanted to mention that I spoke with April Vargas today about this very issue, and she wanted me to communicate her deep concerns about this potential joint ad hoc committee as well, and she doesn't support such a committee either. So I wanted to mention that. And, you know, I'm just learning about this, so I don't have all the facts. I don't know if I'm using quite the right language for describing it, but I'm doing the best I can. I think you guys get the point, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, Bill Kehoe.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill Kehoe from West Beach. Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything that Sabrina just said. I was sent a summary of the meeting I read today, and it's not clear from your agenda item versus what I know of the meeting yesterday as to what this committee around consolidation actually is. The definition of consolidation goes across the full spectrum, and it's ill-defined as of now as to what that is. I also saw from the meeting notes that Supervisor Horsley and City Council Member Alan Alfano jumped on this as a good idea. I'm not sure if this is the same consolidation committee that you have addressing here, if that's a separate one. Again, there's lots of stuff floating around, but no definition to it. I do know from spending a lot of time in front of the post office talking to our ratepayers that most people in Montara and Moss Beach are dead set against consolidation. And I thought that this whole idea of going to a CSD was the beginning of a slippery slope for something that the county has been trying to push down our throats for years, decades since I've been here, of consolidating this all into one big happy city so they don't have to deal with this. Most people in Montara and Moss Beach that I know of are dead set against that. I think you guys have all run for office long enough to know that they're dead set against it. So, while I wouldn't want to shut down what GSD wants to do in their ratepayer family, I think that's fine. Bring it to an election, that's great. But all this has been done outside any input from Montara and Moss Beach. And for us just to be the tail pinned on the donkey is not the game I want to see us playing. And so I really think you should be very careful on how you go here, because I can see right now that if it starts to go down that slippery slope to consolidation, there'll be major organization in getting things changed here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with no further public comments, board members.
I'll come out and say that the request was to send a letter asking to establish an ad hoc committee. That didn't mean that they had to form an ad hoc committee. I don't think this is the time to do that. I don't think that we need. It's kind of a first step, and I don't think it's. I don't think we need to talk. I don't think we should talk about this now. GSD satisfied the demand, and that doesn't involve us at this point. So I think we should. I don't think we need to respond to the letter at all.
There's no obligation to respond.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we should respond to the letter at all at this point. That'd be my recommendation.
Bill?
You know, in this last election, I walked up and down every street in this district, and I did not get the sense of the people that I talked to that there was a strong feeling about this one way or the other. And I think that the idea of forming an ad hoc committee just to talk about it does not mean we're going to do it. It means we're going to discuss this issue and see if there's any merit to it, or if there's any reason why it shouldn't happen. But I see no reason not to talk about it, so that I am in favor of forming an ad hoc committee to meet with GSD. And it's also a little unclear to me, but I think there was also an ad hoc committee formed by LAFCO consisting of Supervisor Horsley and Council Member Alfano to talk about this with both of us.
What?
Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think for us to ignore the letter, or I think what was the drift of the LAFCO meeting from what was reported to me, we have complete control of the outcome of this discussion. And I think this gets back to the realm of having a discussion of which, at the end of the day, this group has to vote on it. This group has to vote on any discussion. And the bottom line is, I'm kind of with Bill on this. I can't see any downside for engaging in this discussion whatsoever.
Catherine?
I can't see any reason really to spend a lot of district time and resources on it. I too have walked and talked to an awful lot of people. I talked to a couple of folks today, as a matter of fact, and I was told, we don't want anything to do with consolidation. And I received an email from a constituent who's very concerned about costs and parks and doesn't want us to spend any money on that. She is very concerned about the water and sewer rates. I would prefer that we spend our energy on our public outreach and on our strategic plan. I think staff time is better spent getting a sense of the district. I'm offended by Supervisor Horsley and Half Moon Bay deciding to get involved here without talking to either our president or our staff first. I've followed LAFCO for a lot of years, and they have had a stated purpose of consolidating everyone into Half Moon Bay. That's what the sphere of influence is all about. I think Granada's been working on this since 2005 and has a good handle on it. They've never talked about consolidation either, and I frankly think that any discussion of consolidation could uproot their plans to convert to a community services district and add more flame to, or more problems to their effort, and I just don't want to get in the way of what is their effort. Maybe after they become a community services district, maybe later, that's something we can talk about. But right now, they've got to have their attention focused on their efforts to get this election done. We have to be focusing our efforts and our money on our strategic plan. I can't see wasting either our time or our money or meddling in Granada's affairs. And I will repeat, I am offended by both Supervisor Horsley and Alifano not contacting this district with this idea first.
Well, let me weigh in. I've received some very concerned phone calls about this matter today, and I would say these are, well, they were vociferous. Throw out my $5 word there, but they were lit up. And if that were just today, based on what happened at the LAFCO meeting, that'd be one thing. But these were not the first vociferous comments that have been thrust upon me in my almost 16 years of doing this job. I too have walked every street in this district, not as recently as you, but enough people know me that people seek me out on this very topic and stop me from time to time to make sure that we're not getting some harebrained fool idea about going and consolidating. There's no one at this agency who has spent more time working with Granada Sanitary District than me. And it's not about tooting my own horn, but I established my credentials to weigh in with this comment. They are our best working partner of any agency anywhere on the peninsula. We have done many exciting projects with them. And yes, I get excited about holes in the ground that hold extra wastewater in the big rains. I get excited about that. That happened because of our extremely good partnership with Granada, and it was not only something that we needed to preserve the safety and sanctity of our beaches and our populace, but working together, we slashed the cost on that over what the larger consolidated agency had in mind to do. Slashed it. We did it for under $2 million, something that was proposed initially to run about $16 million. And
decades earlier.
Well, no, even as recently as 3 years before we actually got the project in the ground. We have been able to team up with Granada to do some wonderful things. There is nothing getting in the way of us doing that on the areas where we have strong mutual interests. So I see no support in the community from the people that I have sought out and have sought me out. There are lots of things to do together without consolidation. We have cooperative agreements, and I have had discussions with some of the GSD members over the past couple of years about other things that we might do and that we can continue to talk about doing, generally related to SAM-related issues, since Jim and I have been serving on SAM, and we talked to our fellow SAM representatives, not just at GSD, but at Half Moon Bay as well, about things that we can do together. But this committee, the way it's been formed, look, you can't have lived in Montara or Moss Beach all this time and gone to all the LAFCO meetings and all the county supervisor meetings and all the Half Moon Bay City Council meetings, all the SAM meetings, the Mid-Coast Community Council meetings, some Pacifica Council meetings, and other meetings in the area, and not smell the coffee. And I'm just going to call it what it is. LAFCO's been itching. They see an opportunity to force Granada's hand on this. It's not because it's a good idea, it's because they can't turn loose of this notion that everything has to be consolidated. For years, at LAFCO meetings, at other meetings, on mailing lists where open discussions were held, in all sorts of forums, in debates, candidate debates. I have put it to people who have put forward consolidation is a great way to save money. In all these years, the only suggestion that I've seen that has had any pretense of having a bottom line dollar benefit was one that's actually impractical and wouldn't work, but had to do with another agency doing our billing for us. They'd have to stand up a whole extra set of books and use a system that's designed for one set of customers to use it for two. And anybody who's ever looked at trying to commingle systems like that knows that it's not just a simple matter of, let's just add in 1,800 more homes. That is the only example I've seen where anyone has gone to talk about money. And everybody's happy to wave around the grand flag about consolidation and how wonderful it'll be for saving money and getting better return on investment and getting better rates on the things that we buy. That's all well and good, but I have said put up or shut up now for years, and the billing is the only one ever suggested. Everything else has been hand waving. I really won't support this. I fully support working closely with our allies and collaborators and friends on either side, and plenty willing to make relationships and outreach to any of the agencies that we get to interact with. But this is an attempted shotgun wedding. Let me remind everyone that the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side was a result of a county forced shotgun wedding. We had 3 agencies that had systems. Ours was working quite well, and our community has spent millions of dollars that we never had to spend to decommission a fully working treatment plant and build 7 miles of pipeline and spend all that money and all that power and all that human effort to operate and repair and maintain the pumps that carried all the way down. We had something that worked here, and our community has borne a heavy price for this over the years, and a lot of that money is sunk cost. A lot of people living here now don't remember that, but that was a shotgun wedding. The county was holding the shotgun, and I'm smelling the coffee, and it smells a lot like the JPA. They have done nothing in any way to show respect for the people of our community as they talk about the laudable goals of consolidation. This is the wrong way to come at this, and I couldn't be more firm in that. Lou, do you have a comment, and then we'll go back for closing comments.
Wall Montara.
Don't forget your question.
Sort of interesting that they would have the audacity to recommend they approach us with regard to forming a consolidation committee when Granada already serves parts of Half Moon Bay. It would make more sense to combine those 2 sewer districts than to have us in there. It just doesn't make any sense.
Good point, Lou.
Bill, it looked like you really wanted to say something.
Yeah, that one of the things that we're talking about is what the community really feels about this issue. And I ran for office, and by all rights and definitions, I probably should have come in 4th place. I've never sought political office before. That there were 2 incumbents. There was Dwight, who also held office for 3 terms, was much better connected than I was. But there were 2 things that, if there was a strong level of satisfaction with the existing board, I should have come in 4th place. Why did I come in 1st place? I didn't do anything all that extraordinary or anything like that. So I think that one of the reasons why I did well is because there was a dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs. I would also bring up the meeting that was held at Fairlawn View School, that I have to admit it was a real shock to me that the degree of animosity that was expressed towards the Montara Water and Sanitary District. And so that in this...
Which meeting was that?
This was a meeting related to the...
Moss Beach Park.
Moss Beach Park. And so that I would still go back to the idea of forming an ad hoc committee that if nobody else wants to put the time and effort into it, I'll put the time and effort into it. That, and it's not that I have a position in favor of it or a position against it, that I think that it should be discussed. It should be brought out. It may turn out to be absolutely the stupidest idea you ever heard of. But it may not be. I just don't know. And the way to find out is to work the problem. And I think we're just sort of burying our head and saying we're not going to work the problem when I think we really should.
Well, a couple things. First of all, the meeting at the Fairlawn View School, I was there, and that was related to the Moss Beach Park, and some of the concern expressed by certain people was not really directed to the water district. It was directed to certain individuals' perceived history of what happened with this district concerning Moss Beach Park. There's misinformation presented about how this district had responded to the Moss Beach Park, and that misinformation was capitalized by certain individuals, and we've it's documented that in my letter to the Moss Beach Park supporters, outlined the history of what happened. Those were incorrect statements that were made, and they weren't directed at the water district. They were anger concerning the park and frustration with the park. I really beg to differ on that take. And then the other thing, Bill, is that I think the issue is worth talking about, and we are talking about it.
No, we're not.
But we're not talking about it. We're not talking about it. We're not talking about it in response to Horsley's. We're not responding to his request. I heard the head of LAFCO, the executive director of LAFCO, talk about this, and I think this is the first. It's not appropriate to respond to them in this way. I think if there's a desire to talked about consolidation. It should come from the people of the district. It should be initiated by us. It should be initiated by people. Now, if you have that support, you might show that, but present that. But I think that the people have to initiate this, and we shouldn't knee-jerk response to this request.
Wait, I don't see where it's a knee-jerk response to it. I also don't. I'm hearing that just to talk about it somehow it goes down a slippery slope, and it's a fait accompli, and we're going to abrogate all our responsibilities to the district to even talk about this.
No, that's not what anybody's saying.
So
What we're
why don't
saying,
we form an ad hoc committee and just talk about it?
well, you could listen to what we're saying. Or
Yeah.
you could just keep insisting that we're not doing it the right way, and it's okay if we have a difference of opinion on this. But I think we've been fairly clear about wrong thing, wrong time, wrong way. I'm going to I'll restate, if LAFCO wants to have this conversation, they don't need to send an agency that is doing its dead level best to rise to meet a need that the county for a very long time has not met. They're trying to meet the needs of their community. And LAFCO, because they're in a position, a regulatory position, they have leverage. And they're using it to go after something, a long-standing, clearly stated goal. They want consolidation. They want consolidation. They want consolidation. And they are abusing the process, abusing Granada and its people by drawing them into this when Granada is trying to simply meet a need that the county, which, by the way, has more votes on LAFCO than anyone, which the county has not attended to the park needs of the mid-coast. And that includes us as well, I might note. But, I've heard the vapid answers about this, about saying, well, we've got Fitzgerald, we've got the state parks, we have all these wonderful things. These are not the kind of parks that you find when you go to Foster City or San Mateo or Redwood City. They've abrogated their responsibility. I understand why it costs money.
Those are different because those are all, you illustrated incorporated cities that have city parks. Am I not correct?
There are other parks that the county operates, but the fact of the matter is, my very first supervisors meeting that I went to in Redwood City, they introduced themselves to the audience as, for the unincorporated coast, we are your city council. That was their characterization. And that has been their characterization through the years as I've gone to their meetings and paid very close attention and participated in a variety of ways. They have not held up their end on maintaining our streets. They have not held up their end on providing park services. I will say they have held up their end on providing police services. And I think that's a right priority to start with. But there are many services that my city council doesn't attend to. They don't do very much at all. And there was a time where they didn't do anything at all for stormwater maintenance. And so there's a way that if they want to open the conversation, that's fine, but they're abusing the process by putting this onus on Granada and sending Granada as an emissary on this. It's a fine thing for them to try, but I'm calling it what it is. And in all of that, don't miss that we work very well with Granada, constantly with Granada. We have very good open lines of communication with Granada, and we're always looking for more things that we can do together. And consolidation hasn't been, the lack of consolidation hasn't gotten in the way of a number of material, solid, tangible outcomes from working with Granada.
You know what I think is sad about this discussion? I mean, old history's coming up over and over and over again. And yeah, we could maybe complain about the process or how it came down to us. You know, the problem of the coast side is that we have the people in the various camps who are unwilling to even engage in a conversation beyond their own comfort level. I mean, I saw this with a school district. I mean, Scott, I think probably 90% of the content.
Did you miss the part where I've been talking?
Can I finish, please?
Well, if you're gonna mischaracterize,
Let me
if you're gonna mischaracterize our communication with Granada,
If I can finish, please.
all right.
Thank you. All I'm trying to say right now is I believe that the relation with Granada's helped. You've had a good relationship. I don't have any argument with that. Also, what I know is that the various communities, and I'm just talking about in general, all have a habit of staying in their own camps and kind of defending their own turf. It's just the way it's been. All I think Bill's trying to suggest, and I'm already convinced it's going to be a 3-2 vote in the way it is. But I think these nuances are opportunities to engage in this broader discussion. This issue of cooperation or consolidation or working with people that we have differences of opinion is not going to go away with tonight's vote. And I think all Bill's suggesting is, I'm not sure this is a great idea of consolidating with them at all. But I do think engaging with Horsley and engaging with the various people that have some influence on how we do business and how we relate to the constituency, I just don't see any harm in this. And I think it serves the potential of maybe reducing some of the, and I think your feelings are justified. I think that there's justification for the feelings for the reasons stated. But to continue to say that we're not going to have this broader discussion with this, I just think misses the point. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I think the vote is clear by what the discussion is for tonight. But I think we need to have these opportunities for us to engage folks, even if the way it's being brought may not be as sensitive as it should be. And I think that's all we're trying to say.
The thing is, that all sounds great. We engage with these very people at least once a month. And quite often, much more than that. The engagement's already happening. So we can say that, it's not. What we're doing is saying, no, LAFCO, we're not going to do your thing. We're going to do what our community and our constituents need. And that happens to include a whole lot of communication with Granada Sanitary District. I believe you've heard us say how supportive we are of how they're attempting to attend to the needs of their community. We know a lot about this because we know them and we spend a lot of time talking with them. And they know a lot about our needs. You might have noticed that their board president made a regular habit over the past, for the meetings that you've been here. You've seen him here quite a bit. He can't be here at every meeting because they meet during half of our meetings. They meet as well. But I don't think you're going to find a group that already has, over the years, spent a ton of time talking. What's not appropriate is LAFCO trying to misuse the process to try to move all the pieces on the chessboard closer to the goal that they have been so absolutely clear. I'm not making this up. We can go back to the tapes, the videos, the letters that have been involved in a whole bunch of the LAFCO meetings over the past dozen years or so. I'm not making this up. People who don't learn their history are the ones who are bound to go step in it. We've been paying real careful attention. This isn't animosity, this is understanding. If they would like to chart a new path, I am the last person you should look at and accuse of being unwilling to meet with people with whom I have differences. Every member of our board, I'm sure, has done that. I know for sure Catherine has, and Jim has, and I have, and I know Paul Perkovic certainly did. I know Chris was big on outreach to others as well. No one on this board has been insular and unwilling to meet with people just because we have differences of opinion. And I'm really not going to take it kindly if people try to suggest otherwise, because it's untrue.
Well,
I'd like to speak now.
yeah.
Thank you. Lou, I think you made a great point. I'm a little confused as to why LAFCO didn't ask Granada to send the letter to Half Moon Bay and perhaps incorporate Granada and Half Moon Bay together for both sewer, and because they share a water district, and recreation. That probably would have made more sense, but LAFCO chose not to do that, and Granada has met the condition, which says GSD letter to the Montara Water and Sanitary District requesting establishment of a joint consolidation committee. It didn't put a time limit on that. I don't think we need to rush into this. I don't want to interfere in their election. I don't want LAFCO's condition asking us to talk to them about future events to stop their effort to meet their community needs. And so there's always time for this. I mean, goodness gracious, you're going to be on the board for 4 years. You've got lots of time, so there's no point in rushing into this. And the other is, we need some data. When you spoke at LAFCO, I was told you said you wanted the election put off until November because there was a need for more data, for more information. Well, I will stand with you in that, let's bring this up after their election and after they've been a community service district for a year or two and see how it's working. There's no rush. We don't need to do this tonight.
Okay.
And I certainly do not want to interfere in a project that's been going on in Granada since 2005, a very well-researched and well-studied project.
Okay, so Catherine, with all due respect, that's your assertion on things. I do not see how that forming an ad hoc committee to discuss this issue interferes with this election. Number one. Number two is, as far as we got all the time in the world, that I just found in my life there's never a good time to do anything, and there's always seemingly way more reasons to talk myself out of anything worthwhile than there is to go ahead and pursue a course of action. So that the idea that there's no sense of urgency about this, I think there's a sense of urgency on almost everything, because if you don't create a sense of urgency about things, they just don't get done.
Scott, may I respond?
Yeah, no, let's wrap it up. We've got more to do.
Sounds good. I don't think, I think there's a lot of data to be accumulated on this. And so I think trying to make decisions without enough data is a bad mistake. And so let's just see what happens with Granada. Who knows? Maybe it won't even happen in June. And so why waste our time? We have more important things to do, particularly our strategic plan.
Did anyone want to have a motion on this, or shall we just move on?
I move that we send a letter to Granada supporting their community services district and congratulating on their approval of the election by LAFCO.
Do we have a second?
I second the motion.
Any comment?
I still think we should go back and at least put this ad hoc committee up or down, so that I would propose that we form an ad hoc committee to meet with the Granada Sanitary District.
Okay, that's not the motion on the floor at the moment. We can come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Any comment on the letter?
Just a question, I'm not sure that we're allowed to do that. That issue in itself wasn't agendized. I think the agendized item for action was in response to the ad hoc committee. So I think the problem you're running into is now you're going ahead and supporting their June election. So I would recommend that that's what you wish to do, that you make that agenda item for 2 weeks.
I think that's fine to raise the concern, but the agenda item is agendized sufficiently broadly to support almost any related action out of it. And certainly sending a letter, I mean, come on.
Well, I think sending a letter that now you're supporting their action to be a district is, we've been talking about that they should be able to function without our impression when we live. I'm not going to make a big deal of it.
I'm sorry, what?
So the question is, should we let that's their issue, whether they become a park district or not. And why now are we sending a letter in support of that initiative? I think that's...
I believe the suggestion was to congratulate them.
Yes.
The agenda item was
That's-
review and possible action concerning reorganization of Granite Sanitary District into Community Services District.
It's,
So that's the agenda item.
it's a matter of common courtesy, and there's nothing untoward about that as far as I'm aware.
Well, I respectfully disagree.
Also, when this agenda item was brought up at the last meeting, it was specifically focused on that item number 7, which was the letter. And that when it came up as an agenda item, it came up in a different form than it was presented at the last meeting.
Well, okay, so let's talk about how that process works.
Okay.
The item got scoped larger. That is because the item got bigger in terms of what transpired since then, and in conjunction with Clemens in discussing this, this was the appropriate scope. Agenda set by the president and the general manager, and he managed to get it onto the agenda. That's great. We are not constrained by prior indications. And, honestly, this isn't how we win votes in terms, here at the table, to try to, after the fact, constrain the agenda item. That's just not what we're going to be doing. This is agendized properly according to the Brown Act. The public has had ample notice about what this item would contain. We could take issue if it was poorly written, if we're trying to do something that was clearly unrelated or unanticipated by this. I don't think that's where we are. But the notion that we shouldn't have a full discussion about what happened and how it relates to this matter, I'm not seeing.
After all, the meeting was yesterday,
So,
as you know.
any further discussion on the motion, which is to send a letter, congratulations to Bernard. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 opposed,
Aye.
Are you opposed?
2 opposed.
2 opposed.
Did you want to make the motion about the committee?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we form an ad hoc committee to meet with the Granada Sanitary District and potentially the LAFCO ad hoc committee.
Well, it needs to be
I'll second it.
a little more precise, I think, and potentially, which are you proposing? Why don't you propose what you want?
I propose that we form an ad hoc committee to meet with the Granada Sanitary District committee as outlined in the letter, whatever the date of that letter was.
January 7th?
Yeah.
January 7th.
Okay. And, Scott, I've never done this sort of stuff before, so if I include the Supervisor Horsley and Alan Alfano as part of the LAFCO ad hoc committee to meet with both of them, is that appropriately worded? I don't know.
I think it's sufficiently clear that you would like to. I'll note that that's beyond the scope of what we anticipated when we first put this on. Noted that we put this on the agenda. All right. So I'm fully supportive of you making this motion without being constrained on that.
Okay.
Since it's a late breaking action, it's the kind of thing we want to take the whole and think about it. I think it's sufficiently clear that you want to form an ad hoc committee to meet with the GSD ad hoc committee and the LAFCO ad hoc committee. Is
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right, so that's the motion. Do we have a second?
Before you bring that to the vote, can the public make a comment? Because that's a little bit different than what we were commenting on before.
Yes, please.
I'd like to comment.
Please.
So, Mr. Huber, when you ran for election over there at the night and the League of Women Voters were there, I recall you walking back the idea that you were for consolidation and that you just were looking for, and let me quote you, and I'm talking, so don't answer till I'm done, that you were for cooperation. Now here you are in your first public meeting, sitting at the big table, and you're pushing for consolidation. So my big question to you, and you can answer when I'm done, is which time was the real Bill Huber actually talking? Now, as far as it goes for any kind of consolidation committee, you need to define what you are talking about consolidating. Are you consolidating the sewers? Are you just going to consolidate on parks? Are you going to go beyond that to water? And if you're going to do it with the county and LAFCO and the other ones, are these ad hoc committee meetings going to be opened up to the public, all the meetings? Will there be members of the public allowed to be on that? If you're going to start trying to set up these meetings to change the form of government that we have here on the coast side that many of us have been living with for 20 or 30 years, you better be damn sure that the public is well aware of this and has input to it from the get-go. And I don't like seeing what's going on here with the 2 new board members sitting here acting so pious that they're going out there and we have our built-in agendas from the past. Well, we're not the only ones with the built-in agendas here, Dwight. You've had yours from the school board for how many years? And the games you played on that? So I am, for one, if this happens, there better be public input on it, or I'm going to do everything I can to get everyone, the member of the public, and from Occupy, Half Moon Bay, and the rest of it, going to these meetings and breaking into them. Because I don't like what's going on here.
Before anybody comments, I'm going to take a moment to think back on some history, some shared history point. A board meeting that I was at, not here, but at another place. A couple of us were there, and I got to the microphone to speak. And I had a lot of time since then to think about what happened that night. Understand, and I appreciate that the speaker at the microphone was not interrupted. I do appreciate that, and as board president, I will insist on that. Because what I saw that time really made an impression on me. Should anyone on this board interrupt a speaker at the microphone in an unwelcome way, if for some reason I fail to stop it, I ask any of you to remind me of what I'm saying now. This is one of those things that it's an amazing thing, the country we live in, that we have the right to stand pretty much face to face and disagree vehemently and go home peacefully to our homes at night. And it's easy to get heated up and defensive about the things that we stand for and the time that we've put in and even our own character. But now, before anything seriously untoward has happened, but remembering something from a long time ago, I just want to, in my first meeting as president on this go-around, take the opportunity to state for the record that it is our policy to, and it is required under the Brown Act, and I believe there are some other civil rights involved, to give members of the public their due when they want to speak, without attack or interruption or vilification. With that, if anyone wanted to respond to Mr. Kehoe's comments.
If I heard correctly, it was that I am advocating consolidation. I'm not advocating consolidation. I'm advocating having a discussion to see if it has any merits. I think there's a huge difference between advocating for something and having a discussion about it. And somehow the idea of talking about an issue can somehow be construed as either inappropriate or not right or just or anything like that. We were a country that was formed on ideas. We were not formed as a country on power, on privilege, or anything like that. We were a country that was formed on ideas. One of which was the proposition that all men were created equal. It was one of the founding ideas that we had in our form of governance, and our First Amendment rights are all a part of that. Scott, I could not agree with you more that anybody that stands up to that microphone should be given deference, consideration, and respect. Okay? But I also think that it's a mischaracterization to say that to talk about an idea is the same thing as doing an idea, and that somehow it is a waste of time to talk about these things. That this is an issue that comes up over and over again, and the idea that we can't talk about this, I just do not agree with that at all.
Bill, I'm sorry, Bill. Let me make a comment after. Go, please.
And so, Jim.
We talk about it constantly, and we'll continue to talk about it. We're just making the point that that this letter from LAFCO is not the way to do it. And it'll be talked about. LAFCO pulling our chain, and ourselves responding. It's just that's their job. That's Martha Pietos's. She makes that comment that's her goal, and I've heard her say that over and over again. But we're going to respond to the people of this district, and the people are going to initiate that discussion. WAFCO and GS and WAFCO and Horsley are not going to initiate that discussion. We're going to initiate it. That's all I'm going to say.
We have a motion on the table?
We do. I have a comment, and if that's it, then I'll make a comment and we'll go to the vote. It does come up from time to time. People agitating for consolidation, it comes up. It's always the same people. And it's always people who don't live here. With that, let's go to a vote. All in favor of the motion to form the ad hoc committee to meet with GSD and the LAFCO ad hoc committees, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
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 The motion fails 2-3. New business 3, review and possible action concerning confirmation of appointment of SAM representatives, California Special District representatives, and Association of California Water Agency representative.
So at the last board meeting, the board appointed the board officers and committee assignments for this calendar year. And we were alerted that the motion to assign the positions didn't include the SAM alternates, the CSDA, or actually some alternates, and we looked into this, and turns out this is true. Apparently the page was flipped before the motion was continued. The SAM representatives, CSDA member, and AQUA member were not confirmed in the motion. So we prepared an attached chart that indicates the positions and committee assignments for each board member. We verified by listening to the tape that this chart is correct. And legal counsel recommended to confirm the discussed assignments for SAM representative, CSDA member, AQUA member. So the recommendation is to confirm the appointment as shown in the attached chart. That is Jim Harvey and Scott Boyd as SAM representatives, Catherine Slater-Carter and Bill Huber as SAM alternates, Catherine Slater-Carter as CSDA representative, Scott Boyd, Jim Harvey, Bill Huber, and Dwight Wilson as alternates, and Dwight Wilson as AQUA member.
So that's the only change?
Are we doing all the
There's
positions
no
over again, or
change.
just-
Oh, there's no change.
There's no change.
That's the only thing on here that,
Was not confirmed in the motion.
so what we're looking
Oh.
for is a motion to affirm this as printed.
Yes.
Is that right?
So moved.
Can we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to affirm this statement of the appointments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jim, that was an aye?
Yeah.
That's 5-0. Motion carries. New business 4, review and possible action concerning updating emergency response plan and water quality emergency notification plan.
We were asked at the last meeting to consider the update of the emergency response plan and the water quality emergency notification plan. The first, let's look at the water quality emergency notification plan. That's actually a form that is provided by the State Department of Public Health and is actually updated on a regularly every time there's a staff person changing. We had last staff person change at the DPH, Department of Public Health's DPH level in October, and we subsequently updated the document in November. It didn't make its way into the policy book, the updated version. This is something that needs to be posted on treatment plans at all treatment sites. We have the call person carry this form at all times, so we always make sure that it is updated as required by the state. And this requirement doesn't include the policy manual, and we will make sure that that will happen in the future, that this is in the policy manual, but if we need it, we know where it is. The emergency response plan we're currently looking at, and we'll submit a recommendation to the board at a later meeting. I think we want to do a thorough job assessing what is actually needed. This is a document that's correct. It was really outdated. It was essentially created with the acquisition of the water system, and I think there was some language simply copied and pasted that doesn't apply anymore. So we want to make sure that we have this correctly updated, and we'll submit it very soon.
Okay, that was for information only.
Yes.
Let's see, let's go to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Summit.
Yeah, we had a meeting last Monday before last. Actually, it was a closed session. Anyway, we're considering candidates for general manager, and that process is continuing.
All right, Mid-Coast Community Council meeting.
I don't have anything to report. I haven't been able to attend their meetings. I will note that an item of interest to the community, however, is that Seton is for sale, the entire hospital system throughout California, including Moss Beach. And so we need to stay on top of that. They're one of our bigger customers, among other things. They've put in a lot of I can send you the news articles, but, and the county is heavily involved with this.
Good. That I was going to ask.
And since we work with Seton as part of what I do professionally, a little history behind that is that they're operated by the sisters who are based in France. And they have probably, that hospital system has probably lost in the neighborhood of $100 million over the last 10 years. And so I think the sisters have finally just said they're done. For instance, Seton would have to completely rebuild their hospital to meet earthquake standards. You notice Kaiser's rebuilt theirs, Mills is rebuilt. That's all earthquake mandated requirements. Seton has not. They don't have the money. So I think what you're going to see is probably a downsizing of the medical center at Seton to whoever buys it. The question will be a tertiary hospital or not will be an open question. And another open question is what will be the presence here, because this place here is losing money as well, has been losing money for a long time.
Yes,
So
they almost went bankrupt last year.
Very close. In fact, the county has given them a fair amount of subsidies to keep them going. So I think we're going to see a major change in what that system operates, depending on the buyer. So that's kind of the longer version of the story that came out.
Wow.
Thank you for the information. It's hard news, but it's good to have some real
Oh, yeah.
information.
No, I'm surprised they didn't try to sell it 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. We don't have Aqua Board of Directors.
Well, I think I suggest we revise this to a simple Aqua report in the
Okay.
future because we don't have anybody on the board of directors. And
Right.
I just noted that I need to get some information to you. Aqua.
All right, CSB report.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, I'm betting we have nothing to report on that.
I
Or do we?
I have something to report. I had a conversation with Dave Dixon. We stayed in contact about this and essentially agreed to connect once we know who's on the committees. So I can report that the last Costa County Water District meeting, Ken Coverdale and Steve Flint were appointed to the committee. We know that we have Jim and Bill on the committee, so you will get an email pretty soon so that we can start meeting with Costa County Water District.
Okay, so they will send us an email about getting together to talk to us as far as this ad hoc committee that we've formed?
Yes, it varies how we determine who's available at what time. In this case, you will get an email from me asking your availability. I know you have a lot of time on your hands. I think we'll get a look to Jim to find some time, so he's gonna get me some times when he's available. You will be CC'd into it, and then we transmit that to Costa County Water District, and they respond if they are available at the suggested times.
Let me make sure I'm clear on this. So the four of us will be on the committee, but we'll be getting messages through you.
Dave and I usually coordinate these meetings in some form.
Okay, I don't know the history.
And so in this case, I'm going to ask you for availability and get these times and dates that you're available to.
Okay, so you and Dave communicate, and then when the committee meets, who meets on the committee?
It will be from Costa County Water District, Ken Coverdale, Steve Flint, and Dave Dixon.
And then the three of us.
Yes, and from our side, it will be the two committee members and the general manager.
Okay, so it includes the general manager. I didn't know. That was just the two board members. Okay.
I'd like to know what this committee is doing. When I was on it, we had direction from the board. It was to create an emergency connection agreement, which we did. And the other was to look at possibly regional groundwater study financing and a regional groundwater district. What is the purpose of this committee anymore?
Well, you're
and
correct.
Maybe I think what I would like to do is see it as an agenda item.
Well, going back to the history, it started as Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. That's how it's still agendized, and that was the original purpose for this meeting with Costa County Water District. And I think since then, it was a way to find ways to cooperate on board level. I'm going to point out that We are cooperating on a staff level, many ways with the Coastside County Water District. For example, today, we agreed to share further training. There's some need for arc flash training for our staff, so Coastside County Water District is interested to participate in that, so we can save some money there. But for the board level corporations, I think that came out of the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. So I hear you want to see this as a board
I'd like
item.
to see a little more direction given by the board to the committee.
Okay.
Can I just another thought? It might be, why don't we allow them have one meeting, have you guys report back at that time, and then from the feedback from that initial meeting, then we can decide if the further directions needed. I think allowing them to have one meeting, which I would think, other than just kind of laying the framework, I just don't know what you're going to say until you have that initial meeting. So I would
Sure.
be open.
I'd be okay.
I've got time.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, we don't,
Well,
I think having data, but I don't like having a committee work on projects that take staff time without having the priorities set by the board. So yeah, having a meeting first is fine. I'd like to see what comes out
So
of
the
it.
purpose of the first meeting is to surface issues to bring back to the board for discussion about possible direction
Yes.
from the board to pursue.
Yes.
And this,
I ask because there was a time, I believe it was last year or maybe the year before, where the committee came back and we were really very surprised by the introduction of a rather major, significant policy suggestion that the committee, it was in a realm that the committee had not in any way, the board had not anticipated. So, and he I want to avoid that kind of surprise, because that surprise is a surefire way to make sure there's no support, even if it's a good idea. You know, nobody likes surprise. So, I like the idea. Let's go figure out with the six folks what they think the obvious thing for the agenda is, but let's discuss it here and make sure that the board speaks with an understanding, or that the committee speaks with the understanding of the board. All right, attorney's report. Dave? No, nothing.
He'll
Director's
have a lot to
report.
tell us next time.
That's the shortest one he's ever given us. Director's reports.
Nothing to report. Oh, well, I will report. I was at Lake Tahoe early in January. I've been going up there since I was a child. I have never in January seen no snow. It is terrifying to drive on the east side of the lake and see, it looks like fall. It looks like a summer day. We drove all the way into Reno and beyond Reno, and then back around through Carson and up the northwest side of the lake. And again, it looked like a summer day. It is terrifying. Hopefully we get that storm. But the Sacramento Water District, which has about half metered water and half no meters, is asking their customers to cut back 20 to 30%, and they're starting to put in or work on putting in punishments for people who do things like wash their cars and water their lawns.
It did occur to me in all the press that I've been reading online and hearing on the radio about the drought. That's another way that we're doing some outreach, just by virtue of just the much larger generalized discussion at the state. Let's see, general manager's report.
nothing besides the written report.
I want to call out in the written report, the schoolhouse tank, the new second schoolhouse tank is close to completion.
Yay!
State Department of Health is inspecting next week, and we hope to be able to start operating that in early February. One more excellent thing done quietly, professionally, and to the benefit of people in our community.
And expeditiously.
Yes, expeditiously, and honestly, compared to where we started on concerns about costs, I think where we wound up was very reasonable. And then the other thing I would note, This is in keeping with a number of such things. The general manager attended a facilities walkthrough with representatives from the city of Half Moon Bay, Granada Sanitary District, and the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast to discuss changes to the planned capital improvements. And let me mention that a number of the directors at the Sewer Authority have also taken that tour. I've taken it, I think, 3 times. And to our new members and to our old members, if you haven't taken it or haven't taken it recently, I'd encourage you to do it. And if members of the public are really interested, I bet you we can help arrange for that. And if you think it sounds really icky to take a tour of a sewer plant, you might be surprised.
I've watched the sewers of Paris, it can't be that close.
It's actually quite interesting, but I know that at the high school, for example, for many years, there have been tours put together by the teachers and hosted by the staff at Sewer Authority. And we have had, over the years, wonderful cards and letters from the students who have come expressing their surprise and delight at how fun it was to go to a sewer plant. I remember when Barbara Lohman's class one year they assembled a bunch of organic components in an attempt to bring together the things that we have to deal with in the sewer plant in a much more sanitary way than you might imagine. But it was very interesting to see the work that went into that and the really good science. And it's really strange because I just used to hate the smell of sewer plants. But once I wrapped my head around the idea that this is how we clean our water, this is a necessary and very good thing, I'm a big advocate. So I'm really glad you guys did the walkthrough and encourage other people to do the same thing.
Actually, the plant doesn't smell bad at all. There's no bad smell at all.
Now that they've got the air pump running the right direction.
Any items for future agendas?
Well, for the future agenda after the CCW&E meeting, I would like to have the board discuss
Okay.
committee. Now that will be after that meeting, so it's not the next agenda, but a future agenda.
All right. With that, we still have closed session for
So that'd be a future
conference with labor negotiator. Let's take a 5-minute recess. Give the camera time to tear down and pull out, and as soon as the camera's done, then we'll reconvene in closed session.